Hello, everyone. Autumn here with another arts interview. Today, I'm very excited to speak with another friend that I met at Dead Center Film Festival. She's a director, she's a fabulous actor. Let's get started. Go ahead and introduce yourself for me, please.
Hi, I'm Tori Lane Ross. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma right now. I was born here, but I grew up in Edmond, Oklahoma, and spent most of my 20s in California. So I'm from all over the place, and I am primarily an actor. And in the last few years, I've also become a director and producer.
Heck yeah, you have. You're a leader all the way through. Where in California did you hang around?
A lot of places. I moved to LA first because I was like, I'm gonna be an actor. I was 19 by myself. It wasn't good. I was not ready for that.
Crazy.
Um, Kind of got overwhelmed, ran into some bad people,
Oh,
and then left. And I went to Santa Barbara, which was a beautiful paradise escape. And then I went to the city college there before transferring to Berkeley. So that's where I did my undergrad. And then I came back to LA after that when
okay.
I was much more grown and wise at
We have
24.
to get there, you know? We have to get there, and it's a journey, and it looks different for all of us. I'm learning. So,
Hmm.
were you going to school for performing arts, and what did you really
No,
focus on?
no, not at all. I actually had sort of gotten burned a bit by that experience in LA, and I'd dreamt about it my whole life. I dreamt about going to LA since I was probably, I don't know, 14 or something. And while in LA, I noticed for the first time what real pollution looks like. Because I'd grown up in Oklahoma where there's not a ton of it. There's just less people. So
Yeah.
there was just a lot more people. There was litter everywhere. The smog was bad, and you couldn't go on a hike really without seeing trash. And I just became, and then with all of my experiences there, I just sort of started to become aware of waste, and I saw extreme wealth because I worked at the Beverly Wilshire in Beverly
Oh,
Hills, like on Rodeo Drive, and I was seeing all
oh,
this wealth and all this, and it just sort of made me want to start fighting for our earth, for nature. And so I actually went to school for I thought I might want to write a bit about it. So I actually kind of studied a bit of writing, but it was mostly just environmental studies.
mhm.
Had a bit there where I was super obsessed with geology. And then I found a program at Berkeley that I was really drawn to. So I started in conservation and resource studies, but then I switched my major to society and environment. So that's what I ended up with my degree in. And it was at Berkeley I sort of began to see how I could marry the two when it came to filmmaking and storytelling, and um, you know, being a champion of our earth and our natural resources and all that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna I have to write it down so that I circle back.
Yeah.
Um, because I want to hear about your artistic origin story. And then I'm gonna circle back into how that all ties in and how you've used it. But for
Mm-hmm.
now, how did you get into acting? Why did you dream of LA? Give me all of the lore on that.
I had always been interested in performing since I was a little bitty child, just performing in general. Kind of was drawn to singing primarily, and that's what I wanted to do. I mean, Hilary Duff was like, I was like, I want to be her. So that was the thing. And then so I took lots of singing classes. I did a bit of like musical theater when I was like really young, so like little kiddie stuff, not really
Sure.
pro. Um, and that was really fun. But I had taken some singing lessons and I had done all that. And then in junior high, or middle school, I did musical theater. No, sorry, I did choir one semester. I think it
Yeah.
was the first semester of seventh grade. And then the second semester, they didn't offer choir. And I remember being pissed. I was like, I want to still do choir. I love singing. This is really fun. And they said, well, we don't have choir, but we have musical theater. And I was like, okay, fine. I guess I'll do that because at least I'll get to sing still.
Right. A
So
gateway.
I start the class. They're like, we're going to do the Wizard of Oz this semester for this class. So we're all going to audition. So
Right.
I auditioned and I was cast as Dorothy. And I was like, oh, okay. But I remember, I mean, I even wrote like, I think a college essay about this. I remember the feeling I had when I got the script in my hands and I started acting. And it was like nothing had compared to it yet in my little life. And I fell so head over heels in love with it. and I got to be on stage and perform this, and I just remember loving everything about it. And I watched the original movie to study, and I was just like, oh, and it was just magical, totally magical. So that's how the acting bug bit. And then I found there was a local acting studio that had classes for kids that had a stage and screen class. So I kind of did that. Once I did that, I then identified that screen was what I loved. I loved the screen work we were doing. I preferred that over all the stage work. And so from that point, I went full on into screen work, and I hardly have done any theater since. So
Wow. Okay,
yeah.
so we have like a gateway into a gateway, which is
Yeah,
amazing. And I hope you still hold the same kind of love for The Wizard of Oz, because
absolutely. You should have. I was sat in the theater, I think 5 times for Wicked. I know it's not Wizard of Oz, but you know what I'm saying. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
world.
It's the same kind of environment built and everything.
It
So
was great.
I'm there. But
Yeah.
whenever you did differentiate, okay, this is what I want to do over the stage work, what was it about it that really stuck out to you and that you really preferred in specific?
The screen work. I preferred screen acting mostly because I didn't feel myself resonating as much with the type of storytelling on stage, but
Yeah,
primarily it was because I was seeing a lot of musical theater type work, which I love to be a consumer of, but I don't feel I'm best suited to it as a
get it.
performer.
Yeah.
And I think it was the type of storytelling. It would get a little darker and grittier and more intimate, and I loved the nuance of it. I remember just we would be taped in our classes every week, and then
Mhm.
we'd all watch our faces back in front of everyone. So I got used to seeing my face on screen very young, and I just remember seeing my own work and studying it every week, and I'd be like, oh, because I was connected there, I made this little micro movement in my face that I didn't even know that I did, that then, you know, um, translated this emotion I was having. And I became a huge fan of that, of just that work, that the nuance, the subtlety, it just felt more real and authentic. And that's what I get really drawn to. So it's not that you can't have that on stage. It's just not what I had been exposed to at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if you're doing it in a really large format, there's a reason that theater work has to be a lot bigger and a lot more exaggerated. Like it's so
Yeah.
people can see it. And while
Mhm.
there are moments where the energy of a small facial movement or a small gesture or the beauty of stillness can communicate volumes,
Yeah.
those are often in the smaller moments. So I completely understand that. And
Mhm.
oftentimes in the films that we see now, at least what I've been observing, we get closer and closer to trying to give you reality,
Yeah.
something as close to reality as possible.
Mm.
And I don't think that's really ever been a goal of musical theater up until much
Right.
more recently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and still even I think by the nature of musical theater, it won't ever be that, and that's
yeah,
absolutely beautiful and perfect and fine because that's not what it's about. You
exactly.
can get some theater, some like smaller theater that can do that, where it's we don't really have musical numbers happening a ton,
Yeah.
um, that I've been really moved by for
Mhm.
sure. But you're right, it does. I lived in London for the past 2 years, which does also be part of the story. But
Okay, yeah.
when I was there, I went to see some productions, and some of those theaters, you're like, it feels like hundreds of rows back, super high, and I couldn't connect with what I was seeing
Yeah.
because I could, it was just too far. And when I compare that to these little bitty theater productions I've been to in places like Portland, my friends have a theater company there. um I remember just being right there in like the second row and just watching everything that she was doing, and like bawling. And yeah, those I prefer theater on a smaller scale, I think, than I do.
It's
Whereas film, I
intimate for
like
a
all of it.
reason. No, I get it.
Yeah.
Especially whenever you're, like we've already mentioned it. It's just repeating the same thing. It's just the difference between a huge screen where you see everything and you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to lean in to see it
Mhm.
versus a theater where it's like intimate theaters are intimate in every sense of the word, and that's how
Yeah, and that I would love to do more of. That I'm
yeah,
really open to and interested in doing more of eventually. Yeah.
absolutely. Let me know
Mhm.
what you're in, I'll come see you.
Okay, will do.
Now, on a more expansive level, obviously, I met you at Dead Center Film Festival, after you did some great work. And
Thank
I
you.
want to hear the story of how you got from deciding that screen was something you wanted to do, going to California and feeling kind of lackluster about everything,
Mhm.
and then getting to the point where you are now, where you guys are being promoted by international film festivals. How did we get from A to F, if you will?
Yeah, A to F, that's right. Um, so I moved to LA and had a lot of advice given to me then
Mhm.
that if I wanted to make it, I should make my own work. So even then, this was 2013, 12
Okay.
years ago. Um, I was being told by people I trusted that that's the way to do it. And while I didn't doubt them, I just didn't feel like I had the ability to. I had never written, I didn't see myself as a writer or producer. Directing wasn't even in at all my awareness of something I could do. And I'll get back to this again, but one of the
Yeah.
reasons is just because I hadn't seen any women doing it ever, not a one.
Come on now.
And not that there weren't any then, but I just didn't really know of them. I didn't really see it.
They're not in the
So
main spotlight often.
yeah. And so I was just so focused on the acting part. So, after my experience there and then getting into storytelling more with not necessarily writing fiction, but more just how do I want to tell the story of our earth and the people and everything
Yeah.
throughout my college experience, I just began to feel inspired to be part of bringing the stories to people, whatever that meant. I didn't know yet.
Yeah.
While at Berkeley, I got involved in acting again after not doing it for years. So that's also an exciting long story that I don't know is worth going into, but basically I got cast in a TV show. It was great. And then I started just doing like student films at Berkeley, and it was awesome. And then planning my move to LA. Let's see, how did that happen? Yeah, so then moved back to LA, dove headfirst into acting. I was auditioning constantly. This was the summer of 2019. That's when I moved back.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was going great though. I was auditioning constantly. There was so much going on. I was making connections. I did a couple of short things. And then the last month of the year, I think is when it was, or it's not November, I booked the lead in a feature. And that was scheduled to start shooting like January 1, 2020. And so that was exciting. It was, in hindsight, it wasn't the best career decision for me for various reasons, but I was really excited. That was like, whoa, big. I felt like my career was like taking off, super cool.
Yeah.
And so I went to go shoot that in January, shot for 3 weeks, came back. And it was in that experience, I think, when I'd seen this team working. Um, and our director had to wear multiple hats for this. So he was not only the director, he was also the writer and the actor. And it just looked like a lot. And so he didn't have as much time or energy to devote to actually directing
Yeah.
creatively as much as I think he probably would have wanted to. Um,
Absolutely.
and it really it gave me then the space to think about how I would have done things differently, I think.
Okay.
And so then I started putting it out there. I can't remember if I actually put it out there or not, like onto social media or something, but my fairy god sister, I call her, Alexandra Harris, who also got me that TV show booking back in Berkeley. She texted me and she was like, "Hey, we need a director's assistant for this film in Oklahoma. Are you interested?" I was like, "Well, yeah, but why did you think of me?" She was like, "Well, it's for like some celebrities, and we need someone who can be like cool about it and also has experience in a bunch of different stuff." And so I was like, "Okay, great." so so I got flown back out to my home state of Oklahoma to work as director's assistant on a indie feature. And that was super cool because I got to be then basically just by nature of that job, just kind of shadowing the director and seeing what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so I got to learn more about the job. And then I was like, man, I really love to do this. Cue pandemic. We had
Oh,
5 days of production to go. We got shut down. They flew me back to LA. And that was that. So I was stuck in LA for a few months. Then my friends in they were living in Phoenix at the time. We're going to put on this live stream production. So because of the pandemic, they love theater. My friend writes beautiful theater. And so she'd written this two-person play for her and her partner to be in, and they were going to produce it. And it's going to be live streamed. Their family had kind of a building that would have worked for it, or that worked for it. And so it was like a theater film kind of hybrid production. They asked me to come out, stay with them for a month, and be their stage manager because we're like best friends. And so we thought this will be so fun. We'll we'll what's the word? Not hibernate. Isolate
Yeah,
together.
there we go.
Like
There
during
we
the
go.
pandemic. We'll isolate like just us. We'll
Yeah.
just bring in a sound guy and a camera guy essentially for that. And that's all we really need. So that's what it was going to be. They were rehearsing in their house one day. And then they said, "Hey, Tori, can you come in here and just give us some feedback on the scene? Because we don't really know. We can't really figure out what's not working, and just give us your thoughts." So I watched, gave them my thoughts. And in that moment, I was already thinking, like, man, I have so many, like, I'd love to direct this. I was just in my head. I'd never said it out loud. I'd never directed anything before. But my
Right.
friend turned to me after I gave them their feedback, and she just goes, "Do you just want to direct this? Like the production?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do."
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So I fully just stepped in, jumped in with 2 feet, and directed that production. It was gorgeous, beautiful, one of the hardest things I've ever done, even compared to the films I made since, because I was on the live switchboard. We did 2 live shows. And so I'm like live editing it. It was so insane. So I directed it like a play.
Yeah.
So we rehearsed it, directed it. Then when we did the live stream, I was on the switchboard. So it was the coolest thing ever. And then from there, I was like, yeah, this is my calling. I got to do this forever. Um, then an acting group I'm part of. I saw a post from someone who had written a 6-episode web series and was looking for a director. She mentioned some of the influences that she had for it, and the tone, the vibe, and I was like, I resonate with all of that. So I just commented and I was like, I would love to do this. And there was obviously no pay for it. It was just a super
No, you don't need it. It's
no.
hard at that point.
And she was like, yeah, great. Because at that point, she couldn't pay anyone. So she's like, yeah, you want to direct this? Sure, of course. And we seem to have the same sensibilities for what we want it to be. So that was my first foray into screen directing, and it's called Trauma Bonded. And I'm really proud of that being my direct, well, I'll never say that again. I'm really
Directorial.
directorial. I'm really proud of that being my directorial debut because it was such a challenge. We shot 6 episodes in 5.5 days. And it's a total runtime probably of like 47 minutes. So that was a lot. And it went really well. It's a dark comedy. And like, I'd never felt more me. I'd never felt more locked in. And like I was right where I was meant to be. So since then, I've just been pursuing directing almost as hard as I've been pursuing acting. And that brings us to my next project and
Yeah.
what got us here.
Come
So,
on now. Come on now. Drop it.
yeah. So, so a couple years later,
Mhm.
um, a creative collaborator of mine, Kane Graham, who I met actually doing a short film that our friend cast us in together, and the chemistry just like worked so well on like our sensibilities of comedy and timing, and we just played off each other really really well. And eventually he had this idea for a script, and so he wrote parts for him and I to act in, and it was just I once I heard the idea and then read it, I was just so sold. I was like, this is so badass. This is so cool. And I was like, so who'd you have in mind to direct it? And he was like, well, obviously I was hoping you would, because he'd seen Trauma Bonded already.
Mhm.
He wanted me to do it, which is awesome. So I was very honored that he trusted me with that, with his script, and obviously with the role. And so
Of course.
we started producing that in a very short time window. Actually, we had a very short pre-production, very short,
Like
like
how
maybe
short?
like I think it was, we started talking about it, like actually getting it rolling, I think in August, and
Okay.
then we shot in 2 months later in October. Is that right? Yeah.
Okay.
So we started talking about it, and I'd say we got into like real pre-production September, and then got it off the ground, and we're in production for 3 days in October.
Okay.
So, and that was right before I moved to London. That's
Wow.
why the timeline was so quick, is it was
Okay.
I decided to go. And so we were like, well, we got to make it before you go.
Right.
That's how we did that. That was crazy. So that was my first time directing myself. It is the thing I'm probably most proud of entirely to date that's out there in the world. And it's doing pretty well. And it's been quite a journey. And I've got a lot of there's been a lot of struggle with it, but ultimately we're so proud of the art of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the title so that everyone can know?
Did I not say it yet?
No.
No, it's called Palette Cleanser. It's a dark comedy. It's 15 minutes, and excitingly, it is a proof of concept. And Kane has just finished the fourth draft, which means we are nearing the finish line on getting this feature draft ready. We thankfully have a couple of producers sort of interested in it, and we are going to want to make that feature as soon as we can. So we're just kind of in the polishing touches phase of the development process of the script, and I will plan to direct and reprise my role. Same with Kane; he'll be reprising his role. He does a fantastic job. He did a fantastic job with the script, and then also with his role. And the feature gets wild.
Okay.
So
What are we thinking runtime? What are we thinking runtime will end
great
up being?
question. I mean, the script's a little longer. We're gonna do some trimming. I think we'll.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, hour and a half, 90 minutes. We want it. We'd love for it to be 90
that'd be
minutes.
great.
Yeah,
We'll bank on 90.
yeah, that would be great. We'd
Yeah.
love that.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, the short was supposed to be 10 minutes. It was a 9-page script, and then my editing sensibilities was just like, let's just extend it to 15 because I had so much. Anyway, it's all
Yeah,
about the vibes, it's the vibes. And to be clear, I did not edit it, but as the director, I sat in on the edit,
of
obviously.
course.
We had a fantastic editor.
Because you're a professional, you sat in on the edit.
Did, and
Right.
probably gave a little too much direction in the edit for everyone's enjoyment. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to that.
You're not the only one. I get it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really get it. Okay, so wow. I have to think of what I want to ask you next because I've been
Yeah, it's all my life's all over the place, so
I've
I
been
don't even
sitting and
know.
eating popcorn in my head the whole time. So wow. Okay. Yeah, you've been all over.
Yeah,
Been
it's
a
been
little all
crazy.
over. I have a question for you on a directing side. Obviously, like you expressed that what you've stepped in to direct thus far has been like work that has existed or that you've been there for the creation of, and you're like, let me jump in on this. What
Mm,
is it like to direct something that a story that you did not write? What is that
yeah.
like? I don't know what that looks like. Please explain it.
Yeah, that's a great question because I would say probably most early directors are directing their own scripts because it's rare that you'll get the opportunity for someone to trust someone. Like usually when someone writes something,
Mhm.
they're either going to want to direct it themselves or give it to a director who's has a proven body of work to show, yeah, here's my skills and here's what I do well and all that.
Yeah.
So I do feel incredibly lucky that I've had these writers and producers trust me
Yeah.
with their projects. I kind of don't know how I tricked them into doing that, but here we are. Um, and I think part of what has made me maybe particularly suited to doing that is my background as an actor, because what an actor does is take someone else's writing and makes it personal to them and makes it their own and interprets it. So constantly as an actor, we're reading scripts and putting our own interpretation on it because we have to make strong choices
Yeah.
about the script, especially for auditions, to deliver a performance that's well rounded and deep and all that. And so
Mhm.
I think just by the nature of me doing that almost my whole life, it
Yeah.
came pretty easily to just read someone's script and go, yeah. And then also just as a massive fan of film in general, film and TV
Yeah.
in general, I have spent many, 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 many hours, probably days at this point of my life, watching long form interviews and video essays on YouTube about filmmaking and appreciating the process. And when I was a kid, before that even existed, I was watching every behind the scenes making of featurette on every DVD that we owned, every single one. Like it was like I couldn't get enough. I was just give it to me, give it all to me. And I think by doing that, I just had this sensibility for how I would want to do that myself.
Right.
So maybe that's part of it. But also I think another facet of that is when you're directing someone else's writing, being creating a relationship with them and a line of communication
Mm-hmm.
and vulnerability that they can feel safe to tell you about what their purpose here was or what. And also I often would ask like what parts are non-negotiables. I think I'd ask that in all three productions I directed of someone else's writing. I would always ask them, do you have anything that you know you want to see a certain way?
Mm-hmm.
It's a non-negotiable, or it's just super important to you and you want to make sure we approach it a certain way. And I would just often lead with that pretty early on so that they knew. So that first of all, because I always want to do justice by the story that they've written. I
Right.
have so much respect for writers, so much, and I have yet to do that myself. So it's incredible. And
Different style, you know.
sorry,
It's just a totally different realm.
it's a different skill set entirely because you're creating from nothing versus I think what I'm this just a skill that I have in life in general. I think I finally figured out the word recently is I'm good at optimization,
Okay.
which is basically just taking something and making it even better. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as great at coming up with something from nothing,
Mm-hmm.
but if I have something given to me and someone says make this better, I'm like, bet you got it. I'm
Yeah.
running with it, and I love that. Which is why I think a lot of the things I will end up writing and for movies I want to direct as well are going to be based on true stories. I already have some that I'm wanting to write that are based on
Okay.
real people and because then you're not coming up with an entirely new concept.
True. Yeah.
You're just telling, and I love that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Hey. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That really gives me a better perspective too, because as you know, we have had very different journeys and experiences. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping to get to a level where I feel similarly and I don't feel fear about directing something I haven't written. I'm not at that level yet.
Mm, gotcha.
And so
What where does the fear come from? What is that? What do you fear about that?
I think it's really just the idea that I wasn't there for the original concept. And
Mm,
at large, like I often think about, you know, as someone who does write and who really enjoys creating worlds from scratch,
mm,
I don't know how I would feel if someone else were to take it, as it's been explained to me to work in the quote unquote real world, where you just sell it and you never see it again, and
mm.
literally everything except maybe two elements could be changed, and that script is gone.
Wow.
And that kind of idea has been expressed to me from certain professors and
Mm,
things, and it's not an idea that I'm comfortable with.
yeah, fair.
I'm not at a level in my artistic journey or career where I feel good orphaning the babies I create.
Yeah.
And I trust that in a way that will be something that I reach at some point or another.
Mm,
However, I also have to remind myself that there is the option where I can just choose to be
yeah.
a bad mamma jamma and just be a woman who says, if you want to direct this, I will be a consistent part of the
Yeah.
process.
And that's what I was gonna say is I don't think there's any
Yeah.
obligation to ever do that with your scripts. I think most of the people I've worked with, their scripts are that's their baby.
Yeah.
Like, don't drop it. That's so important. It's so important to them.
Yeah.
I've also been grateful that they've been pretty open-minded to hearing my ideas and
Absolutely.
changing certain things, but they've also been strong in knowing what parts are important that they don't want to change. And
Mhm.
that's just a conversation. And I think and perhaps this is not something I've dealt with yet, but I would assume that you could potentially have terms of that agreement if you do decide to sell it, and there's terms in there that say what parts of it or what needs to, and I'm not sure if that's the thing that happens, but
I completely agree.
you know what? Why can't it be?
Right. Right.
Just do that then.
See, this is
And if no one wants to
wonderful.
buy it, okay, then you'll just make it.
Then it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
And that actually flows perfectly into the next question I want to ask you, which is like in both worlds of being a professional actor and a director, what is the most challenging part for you and has been within your journey? And
Mm.
is there any element of that that does end up stemming from some general sexist elements of the industry?
Ooh, it's a big question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give two. I think one of the most universal challenges
Mhm.
is the one I still face today. And this is me being very open and vulnerable about this, but it is the completely unpredictable nature of and making a living in
Yeah.
this path. I've just sort of for most of my adult life just accepted like I'll just be broke. Like it's not that I don't like to romanticize being a starving artist. That's not something I want to put
No.
out there. But I've just accepted that I can't ever expect a certain level of stability with this career
Yeah.
in that way. And I will say, as I'm now entering my 30s, I've begun to look at things a little differently, begun to value my time a lot differently, my energy a lot differently.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'd say that's been I think the biggest challenge is always weighing what is worth your time. So even when you're even just because time is money, isn't it? So even when I'm at this point, I don't really do unpaid work anymore. But when I would consider, is this project worth doing, giving my time to for no money? Is what I will get from
Yeah.
this experience, the connections I will make, the fulfillment I'll have, potentially what it could do for my career. Is that worth it? So you're constant, every time you get an audition request, a lot of people will say, just say yes to every audition. I don't necessarily do that, but I'd say, I do for a lot, most, maybe like 85%. I don't know.
Sure.
Um,
A healthy amount.
yeah, sure. But like if something doesn't work, then I will pass on it. But yeah, I think that's been a really big challenge. To speak on your second part of that, about any sexism that I might have been faced with, I've had some horrible experiences in this industry. Um, some were in LA, some were in Texas when I was working on a TV show, some were in on other shoots. And I think one of the main things that comes back to is an underestimation
Mhm.
of me.
Yeah.
And me, I'm speaking for just any woman, but being underestimated in my strength, in my capability, um, in my knowledge, in my just um, ability to learn quickly. Just less trust has often been put in me, and then also just a total disrespect of bodily autonomy and ability to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's there's been some. I've just been treated differently, very differently than, for example, maybe my male co-stars.
Yeah.
Um, that's being paid less or not given the same comfortable place to just sit for a bit, not having a dressing room and having to change in a little tent in freezing cold while he had a trailer. Just it can there it's ever it's always there. Um, and one of the things that I have aimed to do and have been successful at so far and hope to continue to do is having at least, if not more, 50% of my crew being women or non-binary people. So less than half should be cis men on my crews. And that can include cast as well, but I try to keep it, the crew itself should be mainly women, um, gender nonconforming folk, because I've just the feeling on set is completely different. It just is. I mean, yes, there are exceptions. I've been on some sets that are more heavily male, and some are great. If the leaders are great and they hire well, okay, fine, good. But ultimately, what my goal is to give those jobs to as many women as I possibly can. And I've been on many sets where it's literally all women except for maybe hair, makeup, and wardrobe, literally. So I have no problem having an entirely female or, entirely women and gender nonconforming crew. I have no problem with that. And it's so funny when you get people to be like, well, isn't that sexist? No, it's not. No, it's
No,
not.
it's
Actually,
arguably
it's not.
yeah, no.
So yeah, that's a really important thing to me. And just the safety you feel on set too. Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely. Because
Oh,
it's
they're so calm. They're so calm and chill and respectful and kind. Calmest sets.
just a different feel, I can
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, it's great.
I really love that, and I really appreciate you being open with getting a little vulnerable with me. So thank you for that, because I understand that you have experienced a lot that I am not fully aware of and I have not seen.
Mm.
And I appreciate you being open to sharing some of that. And I think that it's really wonderful that we can't solve sexism in a day. And it's not socially acceptable to just toss out certain members of society. Not
Mhm.
often, anyway. Um, Most won't allow it.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that you're trying to prioritize doing your part
Hmm.
in at the very least creating safe and respectful environments, as
Yes.
well as providing opportunity to a lot of individuals who may be actively discriminated against
Hmm.
because of exactly what you said,
Yeah.
because they're because of their gender or
Ethnicity or background or anything.
exactly
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, that's another part of it that I'll just speak to.
yeah,
It's also having a crew that's um hopefully a minority are white people.
yes,
And really championing the incredible crew we have in Oklahoma that is very diverse. We have people of all backgrounds, ethnicities, and sexual identities, and all just we have such a diverse crew here that it would be horrible to that's why it's bonkers to me when I see it, even a set in Oklahoma where I'm like, these are all white men still. Just like I would just make sure that I was interviewing for a role,
yeah,
that I was interviewing just as many women as men, people of the global majority as white people. Like I was just making sure that I was giving myself all the options. I would ultimately
yeah,
hire for who was best for the role,
of
but I
course,
would make sure that I was seeing um, diversity in that, so
yeah,
that I had all the options there, and didn't just go with the first person that was recommended to me. Yeah. Also, I know there's directories for Oklahoma Film and Music, Tulsa Film and Music Office. They both have directories online. You can search people.
yeah,
Um, I would basically start my search for every role with who can I find for this role who is a not white woman.
yeah.
Then I would expand out from there.
Word. That's really helpful, and that's really helpful
Is
advice.
it? Okay, good.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Like I I say that completely speaking from the standpoint of, I'm I'm a white blonde from Oklahoma City and I go to
Same.
OU and it's just where it is and I
Yeah.
go to the film school and, like as a film student who will soon no longer be a student, being able to know and understand those ways of how can I get plugged further into the network that already exists in the community? And
Yeah.
how can I get involved in expanding my own crews and my own
Mhm.
castings? And how can I do that for myself? So I completely speak from a place of that was a personal question for me in
Yeah.
trying to understand how I can be better in that capacity and how I can expand.
Yeah.
So
A
that
lot
was
of it's
very
just
helpful.
like a lot of it's just awareness too. So just
Yeah.
even the fact that I mean a lot of it just comes down to that is like is this something that's important to you? You're going to naturally sort of do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's
Yeah. Building
mhm.
awareness in everything.
Mhm.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Within within both acting and directing, now I want you to express to me what you really love about it. Like what makes you passionate? What what really sets your heart ablaze within those factors and why do you keep doing what you're doing?
Hmm.
No pressure.
What sets my heart ablaze? This has always been like one of just my deepest loves.
Yeah.
Storytelling is what it always comes back to for me, for both things.
Hmm.
And what that means to me is there's so many beautiful, reflections on this out there in the world in literature and movies on why we love storytelling and why it's important. For me, it gives a window into a perspective or a life experience um, that you would never have otherwise. And it does so in a way that is a little more accessible sometimes than books. And the reason I say that, like, books are very accessible. They're often free at a library or, um, yeah, but with screen, it's more accessible to a wider part of society's minds. I think people's minds are a little more open to what they receive
Yeah.
visually,
Yeah.
auditorially, auditorially,
Yeah.
auditorial, um, yeah. So when I think they absorb it a little differently as a whole.
Yeah.
Like as a society, we absorb things a little differently,
Hmm.
and it can mean that you can impact someone's opinions, viewpoint, perspectives, feelings on something. So a big draw or drive for me in it is telling stories that I think are important, that are highlighting an experience or a problem in our society that should be addressed or just should just have more attention. And then if you put that in a film, it makes it easier for people to see it, talk about it, uh, and then you can bring in all sorts of different um, creative ways of communicating it. So it just the creativity, it feels almost boundless what you can do
Yeah.
these days in film. And I just get so inspired by the art of it. Um, as yeah, trying to think what else I want to say on that. Also, with film, you can reach more people with language. So with books,
Yeah.
they need to be translated. With a film, you can more easily just plop on
I'm so sorry.
translated subtitles for someone in a different area that speaks a different language. So that there's that too, and the accessibility sense of it. Um, what else? I don't know. I mean, it's so funny when it's something that you love so much that it's your whole life. You're just kind of like, how do I explain why it's important? Because it's just so
It's just ingrained
just
so deeply within who you are.
yeah. I just think it's beautiful. The connection it brings, the conversation it brings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The ideas that it brings to people that may not be thinking about those at all.
Yeah.
The awareness that it brings in that regard.
Mhm. I mean, I'll cry reading a book, but I will bawl watching watching something on screen. Most recent thing I cried at was probably The Pit. I've been watching the show called The Pit recently.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so raw and real to our current life experience and it's just
Mm.
that was incredible. I also saw Weapons in theaters
What was that
just a
like?
few years ago. Oh my god. gorgeous,
So good.
gorgeous. And of course, I'm gonna have some critiques. Like it's not perfect. No movie. Well, there's a few movies maybe that
There are a
are,
few movies that are perfect.
but most aren't, and that's great. That's fine.
Right.
Um, and it could just be that they're not perfect to me, but they might be to someone else. Which is again one of the beautiful things about art. It's subjective. Love that.
Of subjectivity.
We love it. Yeah. And so one of the things about weapons I loved, and this is something that keeps me coming back to directing so much, is I am so in love with camera movement and getting creative with camera movement and deciding to do a shot of perspective in a way that you wouldn't have expected. And like what and weapons does that. And I was so curious when I was watching it. I would just kind of I was taken on this ride with the camera and I was like, what, how did he come up with this decision to do the shot this way and show us that from that angle and then switch to this angle? And I'm like, huh? But what's crazy is in a lot of films, you get sort of taken out of it a bit because it's almost just distracting when a director or a cinematographer almost does too much with like an interesting shot and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, that took me out of the story. This was not that. It somehow I was able to fully appreciate the uniqueness um, of the shot itself and then the shot in that moment and why that was chosen and still so involved in the story.
Okay.
And I watched an interview of it afterwards and he's just I think someone asked him about like how did you manage these like bonkers shots that you did and he was like so much planning. So pre-pro is what you always hear as a producer and director to get, do all the work there. And it was just a prime example of, he went to the locations and mapped everything out with his DP. And that was so inspiring. I haven't had the chance to really do that yet, and I get so giddy. I think right now what I'm feeling is so much possibility about this art form. Um, without any use of AI, to be clear. The possibility of I feels like the creativity around it is sort of endless.
Yes.
Anything can yeah, you can do anything you want. It's so cool. I could talk about The Wizard of Oz and how I cried rewatching that. When it opened the door to color and it was the first color, I just bawled of just respect and joy for filmmaking. I was like, that how creative was that? They could have just come out with a movie that was in color. No, they introduced color into a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Now, why do you think experiencing and being a part of all of that beauty and chance and choice and
Mm.
perspective is important to the community and to our world?
Mm. It fosters sensitivity
Yeah.
and empathy to other people's experiences, to their ideas. I love hearing other people's ideas, the way they see things. And you get all that. And artists are so, by nature of being artists, we have to be incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
There would not be art without vulnerability. And we also have to see things differently than other people. It doesn't mean that we see it differently from everyone. But we could just be maybe a small portion of the population that sees something a certain way. And then by putting that into a form where other people can experience it too, it just helps connect us and expands us. And to me, it's just one of the most core parts of being human is art. I mean, we just do it without even,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't help myself just like singing all the time,
Yeah.
try not to annoy people, but it's something about the way it feels in my body
Mm-hmm.
at singing, and I can make myself cry sometimes just by a certain song that's beautiful, and if I'm singing it and feeling it just on my own, it's just incredible what that can do. And same with movies, they can make me cry, and it's because you're feeling a sympathy or an empathy or a kinship or a relatability. I think the relatability, one of the things that I found that I think most people find through film and books too, just any kind of storytelling, is um, I remember watching certain things where a character would say something or have an experience, and it would be so specific to something I'd been through or thought or felt. I was like, someone else feels that too?
Yeah.
I thought it was just me. It makes you feel less alone, it makes you feel seen and heard and
Yeah.
less crazy.
Yeah.
Because I always feel crazy. But that's why I watch movies. Just make sure I know there's other crazy people out there, and so at least we can all band together.
Exactly. I think that's beautiful. Hey, Tori, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience and your crazy. We'll bond specifically with the crazies.
Yeah.
That's important.
hmm
Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
But thank you so much for watching. And yeah,
Thank you for having me. This has been such a fun conversation.
absolutely.